to part 5 of the Star Destroyer build. As you can see, I made some progress on the upper hull. And I'm kind of switching back and forth between the upper and bottom hull. This is the... I made some progress since the last time I showed this. I actually put the buildings on permanently. I got the front building on, and I got the tower, the bridge on. So what I'm doing now is I'm cleaning up all of these parts, trying to fill in a lot of the seams and everything else that needs to be done to clean this entire top section up so I can pretty much finish the entire top. So to get the buildings on, I mentioned before that they were giving me a hard time. I had a difficult time getting them to kind of line up, but I figured it out. So what I did, this may work for you, you know, I'm not really sure, but I didn't attach this until this piece was actually on. So the front piece and the bridge tower were not attached. I took that piece, that section that I had showed, and there's some buildings that are sort of markers, reference points to where the sides of this building section should go. So I lined up one side and I made sure that everything was pushed against these buildings that were sticking up on the hull. And then I tacked this side in place with CA glue. And then I let that cure, and then I turned this thing over and I filled in the underside with epoxy. So that was the one side, just to make sure that that was held in place, and then I just kind of worked the other one in place against those buildings and then pushed it down and it all fit. Did the same thing on the other side. I tacked all that in and then I epoxied it, and then I put this front piece on. The front piece fit well. I just had to take a little bit off of the hull where the front piece comes down and meets the hull. It was a little high, so it was angling upward. And the bridge went right on. I had no problems with that. And I'll show you the back. The back section came out good. So it does need some touch-up work. You know, it needs some seam work. It is just unavoidable with these buildings. The center section, let me see if I can get a close-up of this. So the center section where these buildings meet, there was a gap in here. It's pretty much unavoidable. I could not do anything to prevent that. So I have to clean up this putty in here. I made this part that's a little building section that it's kind of an L-shaped sort of thing, and it fits right in there. So I have to glue that in place after I fill in some details, and it should match right up. I looked at some reference pictures. It's about what the piece should look like. For the bridge section, I put some metal pipe in where the deflector shield domes, the domes are going to go. So these pipes are epoxied in here, and they're going all the way down to the bottom of the bridge, and they're really, really strong. So these two will hold. All you have to do is slip on the actual deflector shield part. I made them removable just in case. They actually fit on there perfectly. You really don't even have to fill the seam around them. So in case you want to move the model, they're the most fragile piece of the entire model. Those shapeways parts are really, really fragile. I didn't even like handling them when I was painting them. They were just with the rails and the spikes on the tire. Everything was just I could just picture breaking one of those off. So anyway, you can take them off, put them back on. Same with the bridge. I'll show you the back of the bridge so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so here's the back section, and this piece I had straightened out at one point, and also the little garbage chute is all in there. The back piece is in there, and all the details and the fiber is run on that. So this piece literally snapped right, it fit right in here. I do have to just do a lot of touch-up work with this because it needs to be sanded a little bit over here, and this gap needs to be filled in. That needs to be fixed. So other than that, everything's looking pretty good. I still have a lot of seam work and some other stuff to do on the top. So I'm going to be working on that. This is the fun part: sanding and fixing seams and stuff like that. So what I'm doing here, so this is the major seam that I had put putty in. Luckily, the seam came out really good, so there's not a lot of work. I'm just sanded this down so it's even in all these spots, and then I took my scriber and I rescribed all the panel lines. And now what I'm doing is I have some little styrene squares that I cut different sizes, and I have some really thin CA glue, and I'm taking the styrene squares and I'm kind of placing them randomly. I just have a really sharp X-Acto blade, and I just picked one up and I'm putting it in the CA glue, and I'm kind of staggering these along this seam so they'll blend in. I don't want them to stick out, but there's other squares all over this thing, so when it's all painted, in theory, it should not show up. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference. I'm not putting them all along the seam. I'm putting them around the area somewhere. And some of them I sanded down a little bit, so I'm going to put, see, this one's all sanded down, so I'm going to put something on top of that one. I had to get a little heavy-handed with the sandpaper in some of these spots. And also I'm putting them up here along this seam here. So from the last time I shot this, there was a seam here that wasn't painted. I painted this entire thing again because I have trouble seeing the imperfections when the putty's still white. So if it's all one color, I can really see what's going on. So I cleaned up this. All I have to do is put a little bit of filler in here and fill a bunch of other seams, but it's going to take a while. I'm just going at it here on this seam here, and this seam going down the middle looks good, but I'm going to paint this again in a couple minutes and see what it looks like. I'm sure it's going to need patching up. This needs to be filled a little more here, so it's kind of tedious, but that's what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I need a little break from cutting styrene and sanding, so I got the cannons for the side here. There should be 8 in here. These are from Shapeways. It's a better fit because I'm not very happy with Shapeways right now. I'm getting a lot of parts from them that aren't quality control checked, and they're not printed right, or there's an issue with the print. So these look pretty good. These should fit right in here. Perfect. Yep, it looks like they fit right in like a glove. So what I have to do with these is primer them, give them a coat of paint. Actually, what I might do is just lightly primer them and then put them in and then paint them, because they're a pretty tight fit. Should have 8. Actually, give me 7. No, there's 8 in there. Yeah, it looks cool. I'm going to wait to put those on, actually, until I'm done handling this thing, because I know I'm going to break them. So what I'll probably do is prime them, put them aside, and put them on later on.
Take evasive action!